Greetings, I'm Stasiabliss. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching and for being here, where we talk about Kundalini awakenings and all things life management. Today I wanted to talk about Kundalini and authenticity. So before Kundalini awakening, we are running largely off conditioning, programming, things we were taught and told to do. And then we have the wake-up moment, we have the rush of awareness come into us, and now we begin a journey, a spiritual trek, a vision quest, all of these heroes' journeys into our authentic self. And of course, many people think this is a glamorous journey of dun-da-da-da, you suddenly can just be yourself, but this journey is wrought with all of the initiations of each of the psychic centers, right? And so this is a journey of actually, first of all, having to face all the not real parts of yourself, or all the facades, or all the masks that we wear. This is a great time with the eclipse coming in, and I was just watching a Leo King Deep Astrology is talking about this eclipse being about taking off the masks, and I couldn't agree more that, and if you remember from my eclipse video from the lunar eclipse, that in the Indian tradition, eclipses amplify your spiritual practices and intentions by 1,000 times. So moving through another eclipse, there's always two in a cycle, right? Every 6 months. So now we have this where it's going to be a total solar eclipse. Now, I'm not going to be under totality, but a lot of people will be. So the collective is experiencing this. This is a time where things can be amplified by 1,000. Many know that. So that can be good or ill, right? So it's really important to come into oneself and to look at these unloved or unaccepted parts of ourselves. And that's really what the journey to authenticity is first we're just doing what we think we should be doing, what we're told is right, what we think is acceptable in society, what's the norm, what's not too weird, right? And then like a lot of times a dark night of the soul or an awakening journey can be going to the polar opposite, where you like rebel against all the norms and you like really get into your weird. I mean, I grew dreadlocks and got a bunch of tattoos and stuff in my initial phase of awakening, and I love my tattoos and everything, but it was an act of going against what I was told as a youth also, and experiencing that polarity. But then it is authenticity is about sinking into what is actually you. So some of that might be the other polarity as you swing into and find, and for me with my North Node in Sagittarius, there is this element of needing to wander and be the sadhu that goes to India and, like is covered with ash and dreadlocks and all this stuff, and wanders and seeks and goes into deep experiences. And I meditated in the cremation grounds and like did all the Agori kind of seeking, sort of, not all of it, but I can get quite deep, but that sort of path. And then the house of my North Node, and I mentioned this before, and you can look where yours is to see, where you're being drawn to, especially in these eclipses, but is in the house of Libra. So now I got to bring it into something that matches more my childhood, which is, doing my hair and being presentable and speaking with others and relating, not just pulling away into hermit and solidarity and deep internal study, but how do I now bring that to the people? So our process of authenticity is, yes, deep diving. That's dark night of the soul, second chakra stuff, ancestral wounds, childhood conditioning, where you're satisfied, where you're not, looking at those things. A lot of times we want to put them away to think we can be authentic without them, but the authenticity comes in, as I spoke about in the last video, living in the paradox, finding a way that they can both exist together in you. So in embracing authenticity, There's going to be rejected parts of you, like things that you denied about yourself that maybe you did explore a little in Dark Night of the Soul. But now, how can you own this part of yourself in a healthy way? How can you also own the parts of you that you resisted, that, were part of programming, but you actually find some of those are you too? Not all the programs that are running are not us. Sometimes we run on a track that's very much like us. So authenticity is looking at both sides, right? And finding authentic is also especially with the conjunction with Chiron for this eclipse, is what is the wound? Where's the wound at that I've been hiding or running away from or trying to heal? And how is that also part of my authenticity? So going into the wounding of each psychic center and finding what is authentically you in these zones with the wound, we meet people now, almost no one has without the wound, right? Everyone has got the wound. So I want to say the prettiest, but I don't really mean aesthetically speaking. I mean, the most attractive people to us are those who have integrated their wound and they're okay with it, and they find a way to love that about themselves too, and just be with it, just be with that part of self. So let's say, I talk about my wounds sometimes, but let's just say you lost somebody close to you in your life, and that was a big wound, maybe a parent, maybe a sibling, and it kept you from getting close to people, perhaps, or it set you up to have relationships where you kept space because you were afraid of losing them, right? So that's the wound, but being with the wound authentically would be, being able to face that fear of abandonment or fear of loss and be vulnerably in it anyway, and even loving more, right? Loving the people in your life more deeply, sort of admitting to the sorrow of the loss. There is a tendency to want to cling to people, right, when you don't want them to be lost, but living with the realness of the transitory nature of existence in a physical body for most people, right? And so being with that and being with the wound of, yes, I've lost, but I'm opening my heart again, knowing I could lose again, being in that, right? Being in that. If you single parented, maybe you're so used to single parenting that a relationship, you sort of keep at an arm's length, that they might not be around, so you keep just doing everything yourself. So being with the wound might be hey, I'm going to allow this person in, and I'm going to sort of drop my guard a little bit and allow them to take some of the load and let myself be in vulnerability, be in what if I lose. That's the thing with the wounds, authentically speaking, we can't resist potential loss and failure and heartbreak. We can't block ourselves and protect ourselves from that. That's part of this life. And actually, if we can look at it like Carolyn Elliott, who's Carolyn Lovewell now, but she wrote, what's that book? Existential Kink. Really great book on shadow work. But if you can look at the things in your life hey, even though these hurt and they're painful, on some level, I wanted to experience this. I even kind of get off on it, on some level, to experience all these emotions, these human emotions. I came for this. And so that's where the vulnerability and the rawness can be, where we authentically, even though we could experience heartache or sadness, we know that's part of the deal, and we're willing to, and we're willing to open the heart again, regardless. And authenticity is putting away the pity party, right? because we have to all admit that we all have been hurt and we all have wounds, and there's no one, sure, I mean, you could stack them up next to each other and be like, this person's wound is worse than this person, but it's relative to your circumstance, to your education and learning. So if we just say everybody's been wounded, and we take the time to look at and love about ourselves what came through during that time of wounding. If we had to feel low and feel depressed, love that about the self too. If we got angry and resentful, we can love that part of ourself too. And if we can't, that's the work of this eclipse coming, is what parts of me have I said, no, I don't want to be that anymore, I want to be this. And we can do that, but we have to also love that part of us. We have to love the person that was lost. We have to love the part of us that resented. We have to love the part of us that was ashamed, that felt guilt, that was unhealthy, that was codependent, that was all the things. That was, maybe you were the person who betrayed, or you were the person who hurt other people, and you've changed, great, but can you legitimately love those parts of you and see the value of why you acted that way in your journey? And this is where the authenticity comes in, because a person who can embrace and love all those parts of themselves is that much more well-equipped, I believe, to have real relationships. That's where compassion really grows, right? Like when we've done something, maybe we know in our heart wasn't on the up and up or whatever, but that gave us a certain experience. We got to see into a sector of reality that, maybe everyone says, don't go there. But people are there. People are in that sector of reality, of abuse and of homelessness and of pain and addiction and of loss and of betrayal and of hurt and rejection and anger and narcissism and gaslighting. People live in that zone. So to be a real light worker, if you will, and I don't usually use that term very much because it's kind of been overused and distorted a bit, but to be a true spiritual journeyer, to be one on the path, also means sometimes we have to descend into those places to bring light into them. So that means we ourselves have to experience them and then learn how to get ourselves out of them and embrace and love them and find the beauty, find the magic, find the reason for that journey. For me, doing a lot of psychedelics and different drugs at some points in my life, opened my mind to, I've mentioned before, possibilities for myself, for my vision, how healing works. I saw so many things with these mind expanding tools, but then it got to a certain point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. I have to figure out how to access this stuff on my own. And of course, during that process, I'm sure there were people that I hurt or that I ignored or that I didn't connect with, or maybe behaviors that weren't appropriate that came out, because that some of that time isn't super clear to me, after the fact. I mean, we can't hold all of what we see and do when we go into those experiences, but what it led me into is a gratitude for knowing that I could peek beyond the solid that we can see, that I could peek beyond that and see something greater, and that if that could happen with a substance, then I could also access that in myself. And that's what took me on the yoga journey and the meditation journey, and realizing I could actually access these same states of mind clean. And that's a beautiful thing to recognize, a beautiful power. And that what we do quickly with those substances, we maybe do slowly ourselves, but we can process and integrate along the way, and that's why it's healthier and cleaner. And but I don't hate that me. I don't wish that me didn't happen. I'm grateful for those processes. I choose to behave differently with substances. I'm very shamanic about it. If I do it at all, it has to be purposeful and you know, it has to be told and given to me. It's not just something I'm exploring and seeking anymore. That was like 10 years of my life or more. And so anything that we go through that is, you know, like, even I was telling someone the other day who was trying to quit smoking tobacco. I was like, well, I smoked tobacco for years too. And a lot of it was with hashish. That was kind of how I was introduced in India, and I appreciated it. But I never really thought I had like a problem with it, because my mind was such around substances that I decided to like start ritualizing it and start honoring the medicine. And that's actually what allowed me to release it, is when I started honoring it. And every time I utilized it, it was like lighting up this rainbow that I was ingesting in a holy moment, and connecting me to the natives who understood the medicine. And so I started to change my thinking. And then I realized I wasn't always in the space where that was appropriate. I didn't need to do that anymore. The medicine taught me, no, we stop. And that's the same with other medicines that I've used. It's just starting to turn to honor, and then it naturally was like, it's not necessary now. So that can be with any behavior, right? As we start to learn to honor the behaviors that maybe we didn't like, or maybe the stuff that's going on that we didn't like, even if it's poverty, can we honor poverty consciousness? If you're having trouble with weight, honoring where you are with that, so that it can begin to shift, because now you're authentically just seeing all the parts of you and embracing them and loving them. And that is the journey that we are all on, right? And nobody's perfect, but there's some of us that have gone a little farther, and that's why I do these videos. I'm like, I hope that what I've gone through can help somebody. So I'm just sharing from that place. Not like I know so much more than you, but I think I would be ungrateful if I didn't share some of what I've learned and pass it on and leave it here for someone, so they may not struggle in the same way that I did. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm wishing you a beautiful weekend. I'm off on another little adventure this weekend, so I'll try to do some videos from where I'm at and show you that adventure that I'm on. Otherwise, I'm wishing you a beautiful pre-eclipse weekend, and much love to you. Namaste. I do love you. Thank you for being here.